Alright guys, welcome back to another book review. My name is James.
Ninetailedbrush.
And today we're going to be talking about Harry Potter and the Half-Blood Prince, Part 1, kind of. So we read up to, I think chapter 15. We read, we're smack dab in the middle of the party. Slughorn's party.
Yeah, somewhere around there.
So that's kind of what we read up to. What are your thoughts so far? Because you weren't a really big fan of the last book.
I'm liking it a lot better compared to the last book.
Okay.
I don't know, maybe it's just my personal preference, something like that.
No, I'm just curious.
Personally, I like the pacing a little better. Harry isn't as, annoying to me compared to the last one. And then, honestly, might be just the contents that I'm enjoying more as well.
Yeah.
I like seeing more of, Snape, Dumbledore, their interactions, Harry having to go and figure out some stuff and... it's still in that serious wartime feeling, but it doesn't feel as...
Feels different. I know what you're saying.
Feels a different style.
I know what you're saying. It is. It's very different.
Yeah.
I'm liking it. The biggest thing so far, because we always compare it to the movies, I don't see a huge difference between it and the movie. Right now, it's kind of on Goblet. Obviously there are differences, but as far as, there's going to be discrepancies between a screen adaptation and a book adaptation, the reason I bring it up is because a lot of people were like, oh my gosh, the book is unrecognizable from the movie.
Okay.
Right now, about halfway through, I don't see huge differences. I'm still enjoying it, though. I enjoyed both. I'm enjoying it for sure. Obviously, I'm a little bit interested in Tom Riddle's backstory that we're getting a little bit more. That was kind of one of the biggest things that we were missing.
Uh-huh.
I wish, and I mean, there's no way we could have done it. I kind of wish that the comments hadn't told us anything. Because this would be really cool where it's it's a combination of none of this stuff was in the movie, but everybody's kind of told us what is.
Yeah, I mean, I can see, we did kind of benefit from it as well. A little bit, just from clarification and things like that, but...
So I'm definitely interested in that and, the meetings. I liked the whole Dumbledore Harry interaction. I don't get the impression he's using Harry. I know some people think that. I really just disagree with that. And so I really liked that from the last book, Dumbledore screwed up and he came clean. And then the whole opening was kind of look, now we're working together, Harry. And I liked that. It was because Harry was wait, you didn't tell me stuff? And I was oh, no, great. Here we go again. And then he's no, I've told you everything. Now we got to work together. Now we're on the same page here. I'm going to be honest with you, Harry. And I realized I was wrong. Now let's kick Voldemort's butt together. And I like that.
I mean, it's always
I like that development.
I feel like it's always that thing of, you got to be careful of putting people on pedestals or even this past movie that we just watched, what was it?
Ordinary People? Yeah.
Right, there's a line there that was don't admire too much, you might end up being disappointed. Right?
Yeah.
And so it's that whole thing of that putting Dumbledore on a pedestal thing, And we as fans, I feel do that sometimes to certain characters because of how a book or even a movie or a story portrays certain characters, right? They might show them to be, oh, he's this perfect sort of, old, wise person that can't make mistakes, that knows everything and can't be wrong sort of thing, right?
Yeah.
So, yeah, I mean, we can see that when Harry was younger, he thought of that, right?
Yeah.
I mean... Who wouldn't when they're younger, right? And so the story kind of portrays them like that. But then if you look at it, realistically speaking, and just how the stories have turned out, I mean, he's obviously someone to look up to, and he is a extremely strong wizard, right? And everyone acknowledges him and does admire him for, things. And so it's okay, he has to have done something to get this amount of people to acknowledge him.
Respect and admiration, right? Yeah.
And so, but we do see that he makes mistakes, we saw in the last book. Right?
But I don't think he's evil. I don't think he's manipulating people or anything like that.
No, I mean, I think he's just human.
I think he's a human trying to do what's right in the world, and he doesn't do that perfectly, and he hurts some people along the way. But I think that's why he's a good character, because he's human. So I mean, I don't know. I'm interested in that. It's interesting. I don't really know what to think of it so far yet.
I mean, this book has been showing us that or at least has been trying to show us that, hey, Dumbledore, said or acknowledged that he made some mistakes in the past.
Mm-hmm.
And in this book, we are starting to see, hey, he didn't forget about that. That didn't just go away completely. He's trying to kind of make sure that doesn't kind of happen again. He wants to be a little more clear with Harry.
Yeah.
I think there was I don't think if I wrote the exact line here, but the book said something like, he wasn't looking to like smudge Harry or something. Like, he was wanting Harry to ask questions. He was open to it.
Yeah.
And so I like that. I like that they're showing that, hey, like you said, we're in it together. We're gonna try to be a little more open, and
I would argue in contrast, like, so generally we kind of talk plot wise. I actually feel like things are kind of gearing up, so there's not a lot of like overall things we can talk about. So I'm probably just going to focus more on characters.
Okay.
Because everything's kind of gearing up, and it's like, okay, they're doing a mystery again, but it's like, we know who the Half-Blood Prince is. So it's not like, we're going to have theories about that or anything. But I think that point you're making about Dumbledore is really interesting, and I think 100% he's contrasted to Slughorn, who is actually using people, and it has nothing to do with being transparent or anything. Like, he may be a little bit more social than Dumbledore, and maybe a little bit, topically more graceful, and have more connections and conversations, and has people over for dinners. But dude, he doesn't give a crap about the students.
He essentially
he just wants to
be
cloud
with the
chase.
The younger up and coming.
He's like, the 50-year-old guy on YouTube, like hanging out with David Doe, whoever the dude's name. I'm calling him out. Oh my gosh. Like, he's one of those old guys. He's like hanging out with a bunch of people. It's like, dude, what are you doing?
Yeah,
man?
honestly, I was like, I didn't quite understand what was going on in the movie, but like, now that I think about it, dude, it's kind of weird. Like, if I'm gonna be honest, like, dude, really? Like,
yeah, it is.
Man,
like,
really?
he's just trying to be cool, and
because he's trying to utilize, the potential of the kids, and it's so like, I don't know, dude. Like, when you're that that much more, I don't know, older, right? And then it's like,
right, like, as a teacher, you're proud when your students, go places or stay in touch, and it's like, do these things, right? Like, you have some kid who's struggling and they do something in their life, and you're like, oh my gosh, I'm proud for Tommy. But he's almost like, I want to be proud of these. I want to pick the people that I know I'm going to be proud of. Whereas it's like, whoa, no. The job of a teacher is to like teach all of these kids, and if anything, pick out the ones who aren't doing well and don't have anything, and lift them up. Like, whereas he's like, I just want to get the credit and like not do any work. So let me get the people who already seem the most connected and the most skilled, and I'll just like have them for dinner once or twice.
Yeah, it's kind of like, like if you asked him to teach, like,
he's somebody who likes the idea of teaching. Right? He doesn't actually like teaching.
Yeah, he wouldn't want to teach people that aren't up and coming stars, or people that are going to do great things in the future.
Yeah.
Which is kind of understandable. I can see, like,
okay, it's an understandable sentiment, but you can't do that. Like,
no, like,
I'm sure a few teachers are like, I get where you're coming from, but then you actually can't act on that. That's like messed up.
Yeah, I understand. Like, every teacher wants their students to, like, become the president or something like that, right?
Yes,
that would be cool. Yes. But he's
working against other students
because
of that. Yeah.
It's so yeah, I know it is weird.
I mean, do you think there's a whole point like to the melodrama and the freaking everybody's making out and all the relationships and like, because honestly, like I relate the most with Harry, where it's kind of like, why are guys like, okay, all right, and like Hermione's like, well, what if I go with this person and I say we're dating? And he's just like, guys, what are we like?
I mean,
I don't know.
I'm not sure. This is the thing is, I'm just not that big of a fan of it to begin with. Maybe there are people who are big fans of it, and it is a good thing to them. I mean, it's kind of like anything, right? So
I feel like there's something about it that's harder to enjoy. Like, because like I didn't mind it in the movie, and I feel maybe it's just also because we were watching it and it was together and we were just like having a good time. Whereas in the book, I do think it's something that some people relate to. It's just hard for me because that's not something that I relate to.
That's and what it's
like,
saying.
Dude, I can be cheesy and like romantic, but like that is just, it's not an experience I ever really had or felt like I should have had. And so, you know, unlike other elements of these books that are very angsty or whatever, age-related, I feel like this is age-related, but it's just something that I never, ever kind of wanted. And so I just don't relate to it all. So it's just kind of I don't know. It's a little bit frustrating, and I agree with Harry in that point where it's like, guys, like, we got bigger things going on here. Who cares about who's making out with who?
Yeah, I 100% agree. I mean, like, just for my own, like, personal, like, speaking, like, it's not something that I enjoy. Like, I'm not looking for that in the story. Okay. And so when it comes up, I kind of just like, okay, whatever, you know, just romance
I feel like
general,
there's a lot of that in the first half.
It's just not my thing. I mean, that's what I'm saying is, like, I thought about it for a bit, and I was like, you know, maybe there are a decent amount of people that really get into that. And
yeah, I mean, I'm curious what you guys think. Like, I think a lot of it is being able to relate. It's just, like I said, it's something that I have never seeked out.
Me too.
And something that I haven't, because of that, I never really went through. So it's just hard for me to relate to that. Like that, you know.
Yeah, I just think there are also a lot of other things that I find more intriguing. And so anytime they do spend time on things I think are less intriguing, it's kind of just like, oh, well, I kind of just want to get through this.
Yeah.
It's kind of like that, you know?
I get that, yeah.
But one of the things I can see, and that I was looking at kind of like throughout the whole story was, you know, we're in this sort of hectic time where, you know, we're not, like, questioning whether or not Voldemort's back. Where I feel like the previous book and the book before that, it was like, okay, well, we don't know if Voldemort's back.
Some people were in denial, trying to, like,
yeah, keep it under the rug, and, like, you know, he's not really back. But now that it's kind of more out in the open, and hey, like, you know, we have the Prime Minister and
the new Minister for Magic,
him and Fudge were, like, conversing about it and, like, having to actually, you know, get down to business. You know, it does present this sort of wartime feeling, but even though it's wartime, there's still, you can see, like, around the Muggle world and the magic world, you know, people are still having to go about their daily lives.
That's
right?
true.
There's still,
and, like,
normality.
I have experienced that where it's like, even if you feel like it should be serious, like, you're still kind of like something will happen and you're like, okay, but what's for dinner? Like, and it's that weird thing where, like, you almost feel like you shouldn't say it out loud, but you are kind of like, okay.
Yeah, because, like
it's weird.
Because they were making a big deal of, like, hey, they're, you know, the posters and, like, or whatever they were, and you know, the whole meeting and the Snape thing, and then it's like, oh, and by the way, like, Fred and George's shop, and, you know, they're still going through with their stuff, and it's like, it's such a hard, like, I feel like, contrast to, like, you know, hey, we're Voldemort, they break great evil lords back, but, you know, we got our shop running.
Well, at the same time, life still has to go on.
Yeah, and so I feel like I was getting that, a little bit of a sense of that, of, like, you know, even during these, you know, perilous times of Voldemort possibly, you know, rising back to power, we still got the whole melodrama going on. And it's like, you know, I don't know, I just got that sense of, like, life goes on even during great tragedy or whatever.
Yeah. That is something that I completely forgot about, that I think was my favorite part of any of the books, was the opening of this book. That is my favorite opening of any Harry Potter book, and it is a crime that wasn't in the movie, because that was just such a cool and, like, unique way to open it. And the book, which is almost always from Harry's point of view, being from the Prime Minister's point of view. Like, they did it from the old guy's point of view in Goblet of Fire, which was fine. I was okay how they showed that in the movie. But this was so unique, and it was such a different way, and it kind of explained a little bit of the logistics of it. And I like how, as a reader, you're like, these problems he's explaining, you know it's magic, but he doesn't understand it. Just, like, the way they did that, and they owned it too. They kept going, like, for a while. I was like, they're gonna stop, and they owned it for a while, and I really liked that. Like, that was such a weird, interesting, like, stark way to open it and show that, you know, we're so often spending time in the magic world. So now, by showing time in the human world, the very fact that the human world is having anything going on means the magic world is going crazy.
Yeah.
And I liked that, because as a reader, you already know that, and they didn't need to say that.
Yeah.
So it was a really subtle way.
Yeah. I mean, I think, like, you know, we have seen some, like you said, with the older dude, you know, running into Voldemort and stuff. We have seen a little bit of interaction between the Muggle world and stuff like that. But I feel like this is one of those times where I feel like we actually see like an official sort of, meeting kind of, where it's like,
and also a big event, right? Because they always just memory charm people and they forget about it. Like, this is the first time that something happened that they can't delete.
Yeah.
They're like, whoa, and this is like, a big deal.
We're actually seeing the Prime Minister. Well, I think it was the newly appointed, right?
Yeah. No. They went back in time and like talked about him newly being.
Oh, yeah. No,
but
you're right.
No,
right.
he's just the minister.
No, yeah. So the Prime Minister. But it felt more like official, right?
Yeah.
It was like, the Ministry of Magic, Cornelius Fudge is having to, keep coming back to this dude.
Yeah.
And, have these interactions because, we have to keep this on the down low that magic exists. And so it's kind of cool seeing that. I don't know, how should I say, like the mechanics of it. I don't know, just
no,
like
that's what I was gonna say.
I like cover for it.
I like having world building stuff like that.
Yeah, it's cool. I like seeing that.
Yes, I agree completely.
And see his reactions to things and how Rowling kind of describes it. He's like, he can't believe it at times, and then he was also starting to, even though he was like frustrated because Cornelius kept coming back, even though he said we would rarely see each other. Him getting more frustrated, but then like.
And him pretending to know things like, of course, the Death Eaters. Yeah.
And then relating to him, like, I could, he started to feel sympathetic. Like,
they're both
I know
leaders,
what position you're in.
Yeah, that was really cool.
I really enjoyed the beginning. Yeah. I think the beginning so far has been, like, my favorite part. Even the whole thing with, like, Bellatrix and Narcissa and Snape.
Yes. That was really cool.
Yeah, for me personally, I really did enjoy this interaction better than in the movies.
Really?
Yeah.
See, that's what I was thinking. I was like, it was a little bit different of a scenery, but I actually think they kind of nailed it in the movie.
Interesting. Okay.
But why? I mean, tell me.
For me, I feel like Narcissa felt a lot less, how should I say, impacted or, like unstable in the movies.
Okay.
I feel like she didn't feel as desperate. Where here, at least from what I remember, I could be totally off my rocker here, but like from what I remember, at least, like this scene feels more impactful to me reading it than what I saw. And so I feel like Narcissa really felt like a worried, desperate mother, and was like, begging Snape to like help her.
Yeah.
She needed help. And Bellatrix, I enjoyed Bellatrix in here, even though I did enjoy her in the movie. Like, she has like a different sort of feel. She feels way more how should I say, like childlike. She feels way more childlike, like childish in behavior. It was almost as if she felt like a kid in a way that she really wanted to get that one up on Snape.
Okay. Yeah, I get that.
You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
I don't exactly know how to explain it.
No, I think I get what you're saying.
I think it was mainly just the method or the way that she was talking. She didn't feel as much as a psychopath as she did in the movies.
Yeah.
She felt more like a child that kind of went on a little bit of a tantrum.
Okay.
At times because she wasn't able to control things the way that she wanted to.
Okay. Yeah.
And she was also looking for that sort of acknowledgement from Voldemort, like, hey, I want to be looked at as the
number one.
Yeah, the number one, follower or something like that.
Yeah.
And honestly, I kind of like Snape. Like, even though I personally,
I like Snape, man. Yeah. Okay, I'm a Snape fan. Okay.
I personally hadn't been liking Snape, like in the books as much. This different sort of Snape.
Dude, the last two books I've been loving him. Okay.
Because he still has that sort of evil twinge about him, where he's like compared to the movies. Like in the movies, he's a lot more like serious and monotone, where here he is a little more like sinister in feeling, where he is, he makes those jabs and he does sneer and, enjoy certain things more. But I kind of liked him a lot more, like starting from this book. I'm starting to really get a sort of different character, but I'm liking it.
And what's really cool that I've been thinking and noticing is that so there's a weird thing. So we do know that he's the Half-Blood Prince, right?
Yeah.
But that also, I feel like, makes the read of the book not a bad experience, just a very different experience.
Yeah.
So to me, like, it almost gives character development to Snape in a really fascinating way. And it's so interesting because it doesn't say, but I don't know, like, to me, I already really get a better idea of, like, Snape and this character because you see, like, he's so good at potions. And it's not the dark arts, it's just potions. Right? Because everybody's like, oh, he liked the dark arts. And I think he did. But this is not like, oh, he's great at defense. It's potions. And he's super good at it. He's better than anybody. He's better than the books. And I just, like, I don't know. There's a part of me that, like, can imagine a kid and the fact that he's not as good socially and he looks a little weird and he's got some weird hair and, you know, he's not popular and like getting angry because of that, like having this kind of like anger because he's so good and like that frustration and that lack of recognition for actual like legitimate talent.
Yeah.
And so I don't know, like just that it's this weird kind of passive story device that for me has really developed Snape as a character and really like fleshed him out in a way that even the flashbacks couldn't, I think.
Yeah,
which is cool.
Yeah. I've really, you know, he's really been growing on me because I didn't really enjoy his character to begin with because I really enjoyed him in the movies.
I think he's becoming more nuanced, and I think that Alan Rickman brought that nuance from the get-go, whereas in the book series that wasn't necessarily existing from especially book 1 and 2. And so as the books have gone on, he's become more nuanced. Because like last book, I mean, I don't know, I really liked him last book.
No, yeah,
too.
I was definitely
so I think as a character,
to...
he's becoming more nuanced, whereas Alan Rickman, because he's such a good actor, whether the material was there or not, he brought that element to the character.
Yeah, I also think, you know, it's almost a bit of a different style of Snape.
Yeah.
You know, in the books and
I
compared
agree.
to the movies,
I
right?
agree.
I like that because it's like two different Snapes. And I'm starting to really enjoy this one as well.
Everybody's a little different. Like even with the characters that I really like. Like I like Snape in the books, and I like Snape in the movies. I like Bellatrix in the books, and I like Bellatrix in the movies. But they're very different characters. Yeah, and it's interesting with Ron, Harry, and Hermione. I feel like I experienced this, and I know a lot of people talk about this, where junior year, the people that you were friends with freshman year in high school, like a lot of those friendships break up.
My high school years were very different from the norm because I stayed like 1 year and then I went to independent studies. Okay. So I don't know any of that.
That's complicated. But I at least I would hope a lot of the audience can relate. It's something I've talked to other people about that went to different schools and kind of related to. And I feel like it's because, like, you know, as you get older, you're junior, thinking of college, like all these different kind of things.
Yeah. Okay.
Like, you know, you start becoming your own person. Whereas, like, you're a freshman, dude, you're not your own person. You're freaking 15. I wasn't my own person anyway.
You're just trying to meld in.
You're just trying to, like, survive.
Yeah. Okay, yeah.
And so it's like, okay, you're really starting to be like, no, I don't like this. Like, I'm not just going to say it to be cool. Right? And so I think that's kind of happening within the group.
Yeah.
And so Harry, Ron, and Hermione are now having to, as independent people, be like, okay, let's work this out as people, as opposed to just being friends because we're friends and we're always friends. And like they're kind of butting heads, and Harry's like, screw it, I'm gonna use the book, and then Ron's like, I want to make out with people, and Hermione's like, what the hell? Like,
that's true.
Like everyone's kind of just doing their thing, and then Harry's pissed at them for like flirting because he's like, no, you're gonna make the friendship weird. And so it's like they're all kind of like getting older, and they're dealing with these kind of older things and feelings, and they're becoming more self-aware about it too. So instead of Harry just being like, oh, they kind of like each other, he's like, what are you doing? You're gonna like mess up the friendship. Like they're starting to become aware of like social things more,
connection.
And so I feel like it's I'm interested to see how that rectifies, and then how that changes their dynamic going into Deathly Hallows. Because I'm also pretty sure the whole stupid Harry and Hermione like romance jealousy thing was totally invented in the movies.
Oh, really?
I'm pretty sure. I've heard a bunch of people complain about it. So
interesting. Okay.
You know,
but there was that whole Harry versus Ron thing, the Deathly Hallows, right?
Yeah. So I don't know how much of that's going to exist.
This like continues forward or something like that, maybe.
I don't know. We'll see. So I'm curious to see if this kind of like strengthens their friendship and they move forward, or what exactly happens,
or it leaves it open ended, kind of like
Tony
Tony and
Captain America.
Captain, right?
See, we're getting. Yes, this is why you have to watch all our reactions.
Connecting.
We're connecting everything. Yeah. Did you have any like themes that you were kind of picking up? But I guess besides that's kind of a theme. I mean,
I think that was one of the main themes that I was, seeing the whole Dumbledore, now starting to. I mean, yeah, he's now starting to be a little more like open with Harry and allowing him to ask questions, things like that, and trying to help him out with his secret, his not super secret, but like the classes and stuff, and trying to help train him.
Something that I noticed, which is really interesting, I want to see if this is a theme or not, what you thought, is so Harry, like we know Malfoy is not...
Oh, yeah, the whole Malfoy.
Yeah, like we gotta talk about that. So we know Malfoy is not even as evil as Harry wants him to be, like in this book. Like, I mean, roughly from our story points that we know, I think. And he's like really like, even if the evidence isn't pointing to it, or actually let's say this, like we know Malfoy's guilty, but the evidence is not pointing to that. And Harry is just like, no, he's guilty. I know he's guilty. And I think it's really interesting. And I was thinking about this, and I don't know what you think about this. It's a faulty response to the bias and the polarization that Voldemort and the Death Eaters have created in existence. Like their hate of Muggles and Mudbloods, and, you have to be a pureblood and you have to do this perfect thing and whatever, blah, blah, blah. Like that polarization, in a way, has made Harry respond the same way, even if it's for the good guys. Like, in a way where he's like, no, Malfoy, you're evil. You're bad. I know you're doing something bad. You're evil. And he's, like, assuming these things about Malfoy, even though, like, we know he may be right, but there is nothing pointing to the fact that he's right. It's just because he's being stubborn. And, like, he wants to believe that Malfoy is in the wrong.
That is an interesting point. I mean, this is one of the first times that he's been so... like hung up on something like this, where like wanting someone to be
it's like he
evil.
Wants Malfoy to be evil. Yes,
right?
Yes, and Snape too.
Well, yeah, I mean he's always
but he's doing it more to Snape in this book.
That's true.
Like he was kind of opening up to Snape a little bit, and then he disagreed with Snape, and then this book it's been like, no, Snape's evil too, and Malfoy's is evil, and I want them to be evil, and I'm going to point out anything they do as being evil. And I think it's more than just a rolling like a red herring. Because, like, in the first book, it's a big red herring. Like, oh, Snape's evil. It feels like more than that, and it feels specific to Harry. Which is why I feel like it's more of a character point. Right? Yeah. Because even Ron and Hermione are like, dude, no. Like, there's nothing saying that it was this.
Yeah, I mean, there were a few times that... like Snape was used as a red herring that I was like, wait, come on, like Harry, you're being so dumb, like like come on, dude. But here it does seem very different,
because in the same way too with the Half-Blood Prince book, like there was a part where he was like, maybe it was my dad, right? Because he's thinking about who it could be, and then he thinks, I forget, for some reason he was like, oh, there's no way it could have been him. Because he was a pureblood. He's like, there's no way it could have been my dad because he was a pureblood. And then the book says like he chose to ignore that thought and continue anyway. And so it does really feel like he's like, okay, you have to be bad because you have to be bad, and this has to be good because it has to be good.
Yeah.
And it just feels like it's like he's not a Death Eater, but it's like you're falling victim to the same philosophy that you hate.
That's true.
Like, in the same way, and you're doing it, on the good side, so I guess objectively it's hurting less people, but you're still doing, and obviously to a significantly smaller degree. But I just think it's interesting that in this battle, like, now that he's lost and he's experienced the Death Eaters, his response is to kind of take part in the same thought processes that the Death Eaters that their philosophy is built on.
Yeah, that is true. I mean, we're definitely seeing him get so hung up on that and wanting them to be the sort of villains that, that he imagines that they are. Right?
Yeah.
It is interesting to see. I mean, whether or not he is right, just the fact that he is doing it without the, like, concrete evidence that, hey, these guys are Death Eaters is kind of like...
Or not even, like, I get a feeling, dude. Like, there's been times before in books where it's like, he can't tell a teacher because he doesn't have enough evidence, but it's like, there is no... like he is illogically demanding that it's these people with the information that he has now. Like, I know who did what because we saw the story, but he, like, the thing with Draco, and he's like, no, he must have hexed that necklace, and it's like, no, like, there is no even logic, whether you could prove it to a teacher or not, evidence-wise, because there's been situations like that, too. It's like, the reason Ron and Hermione are disagreeing with you is because it's illogical to assume that right now.
Yeah.
Like, you really are just assuming it because you don't like them.
Yeah, and you have to rely on your friends. I mean, they've, like, you know, they help you keep a level head, and he right now is... Yeah, I mean, you can say that, like, okay, Draco might be a little suspicious, right? We might have to keep him on the, you know, be careful list.
Oh, of
but
course,
like,
yes.
You can't outright call him a Death Eater yet,
No,
right? It's
and
like,
he doesn't know that he hexed this person or did whatever thing here.
Yeah, because it's such a, like, it's such a serious accusation, especially in these times, that it's like, it does seem very, you know, just, like, rushed and rash and whatever.
And especially with Snape.
Yeah, I mean, like, for me, Snape, he's always, like, blaming Snape, and obviously there are reasons, because there might just be emotional, right? I mean, Snape does pick on him a lot.
I feel like he's backstepped.
But now
right?
it's like,
because I feel like he felt biased against Snape, right? And then the last 3 books, maybe, that was a little bit of an arc where he was learning, like, okay, there's more to it than just, you know, my dad was good, Snape was evil, they've always been like that, and he was kind of understanding that nuance. And then ever since Goblet of Fire, and like he personally, like, even though, let's be real too, Snape literally brought, he saved their lives because he brought the order because of what he said. Like, it's not like Snape was working against them. But ever since that, like, ever since it got personal, Harry has just decided that Snape is evil, even though they have their own personal headbutting, just like him and Malfoy, but even with less sus evidence, frankly. Like, Snape has done less evil than Malfoy, or at least he's done less to Harry to show that he might be a Death Eater than Malfoy has at this point.
I mean, to be honest, like,
Snape
has done a lot to help
It feels petty, almost. Like, it really feels like Harry is like, I don't like you, and I don't want you to be good, and I don't like you, and so you're not good.
I mean, could it be one of those things? This was that it kind of crossed my mind, was like, you know how before, at least like, what was it, the past 2 books or something, you know, the media was always portraying him in a bad light, and people were kind of like, you know, suspicious of him, or, you know, thinking that
Harry,
was
right?
kind of bad.
Yeah, okay.
Whereas now they were calling him, like, the chosen one, right?
Yeah.
And stuff like that, and people were kind of, you know, looking at him differently now.
Yeah.
So maybe, like, do you think he, like, feels the need to, you know, do something because he's the chosen one? To create things that possibly aren't there in order to show something?
That's true. That's interesting.
I mean, because one thing
that might be that. I mean, that's always kind of been an element of Harry's character to begin with, right?
Yeah, that's why,
like,
I was wondering, like
that's what Voldemort did in Goblet of Fire to get him to come.
Yeah.
You know, so I do think it. You know, they made, like, a negative connotation out of it as being like a hero complex. I don't think it's an ego thing. So I don't think calling it, like, a hero complex is that. But he always does.
Pressure.
Yeah, he always wants to do something, and he, you know, Harry, I feel like I relate to this a lot, where it's like the most frustrating situations are the situations where you can't do anything.
Yeah.
And he always wants to do something about it. And if, no matter how serious the situation is, if he can do something, it's okay. I got it. I can handle it. I don't care if it's Voldemort. I can handle it if I can do something. But in this kind of situation where, like, he can't do anything, it's you feel helpless. Now, I don't know, so what you're saying is interesting, because I don't know if that is increased. It probably is. That there's got to be more pressure, for sure, about him being, like, the chosen one, but I also think that is kind of an interesting element of his character to begin with, where, unlike a lot of chosen one characters, or, like, you know, kind of your classic, like, to be king sort of character, they are not, like, reluctant. He's not a reluctant hero. It's almost like he's too much of a hero. He's a hero in spite, like, you know, he's a bit of a hero type. So I think that's always kind of been a character trait of Harry's. And I'm sure that in this book it's heightened with, like, public pressure kind of being like, oh, you're going to save us all, right, Harry?
Yeah. I just wasn't sure if, like, you know, that has any way in connection to, you know, the whole wanting Draco to be the main villain sort of thing in his story.
I think there's more to it than that, though.
Yeah, you're right. You're
I think
right.
even if that I mean, look, I don't know. We're just talking here. I think that even if that wasn't there, I think it may not be as intense, but I think he would still be. It feels more internal than just the pressure.
Yeah, I mean, he does feel a lot more, hung up on it than usual.
He's like almost obsessed. Like obsessed is a little too strong of a word, but like. It's bordering on that. You know what I mean? Like especially time and the way it's written too. It's not just
the way it's
what
written.
he's doing. Like the way it's written. I'm going off of what is given to me. The way it's written, it feels very almost obsessive.
Mm.
So yeah, I'm curious to see how that goes, and then obviously knowing where this goes and like the reveal of the Half-Blood Prince and stuff like that. I'm curious to see how that affects Harry's character in particular.
So I'm wanting to see more of like Snape. And like how, because I'm pretty sure in the Half-Blood Prince there was, we had more interactions with him.
Of course, yes.
I want to see more, that side of Snape.
Yeah.
So it'll be interesting.
Yeah. So we'll see. But yeah, as always, thank you guys for joining us. Next week's part 2 of the Half-Blood Prince review is going to be up on Patreon for early access. If you guys want to go check that out, it does really support us and help us keep doing what we're doing. And yeah, thank you for joining us. Obviously, join in the discussions in the comments and the chat and everything like that. Thank you guys for watching. We got just another book, a book and a half left to go. We're probably going to split Deathly Hallows maybe into 4 because the movies did it part 1 and part 2, and then we'll do part 1 and part 2s of the part 1 and part 2s.
Okay.
I don't know yet. I'll let you guys know when that starts happening. But yeah, thank you guys for joining us. I hope you guys have been enjoying this. And we will see you all in the next video.